Welcome everyone. Today's webinar is a discovery of our intelligent Braille displays. Think smart, think brilliant. My name's Andrew Flatchus. I am the product manager at HumanWare, and joining me today is Peter Chusick, the brand ambassador.
How's it going, everybody?
So the agenda, we're going to look at what is our new intelligent display. So this is the new Brailliant BI X series. We're going to have a quick dive into the Brailliant BI 20X of what's in the box, the physical description, as to with the Brailliant BI 40X. And then we're going to pass it over to Peter to see it in action. We're going to talk you through some of the startup experience, navigating. We're going to talk about some of the Keysoft-like applications. We're going to set up some Braille profiles, Wi-Fi setup, and of course, connecting your Braille display to an iOS device and Windows. And then we're going to briefly talk about some upcoming updates. So that's a little bit of a surprise for everyone. So what is the Brailliant BI X series? Now, some of you may already have these in your hands. I have to say the Brailliant BI X series have been receiving some tremendous reviews. I mean, we are very overwhelmed with flooded information from customers, really enjoying their Braille display. So it is good to hear. So the Brailliant BI X series, what is it? Well, it's, first of all, it's designed and built based off customers' feedback of using existing displays, and it shares some of the characteristics as its predecessor. So the old Brailliant BI. Again, based on customers' feedback. So we knew that people loved the crisp Braille cells that we were using, the cursor keys, the command keys, the thumb keys, and of course the physical Perkins keys. And we'll touch base on some of those differences in just a moment. And of course, we expect as users, we expect to achieve more. So when we do look at products, we want to achieve more. As technology advances, we look at how that technology can improve my daily life. So again, we wanted to achieve some, we want to include some productive tools on our Braille displays. So the Brailliant BI X series is one of the most connected and smart refreshable Braille displays to date, and is the first of its kind to adopt the latest Bluetooth wireless technology, Bluetooth 5 and Wi-Fi, giving you a more reliable, stronger connection while offering you unique applications such as the ability to download books with ease. The new X series starts the journey also of an intuitive continuation of Keysoft. Those that are familiar with Keysoft on the old note takers, from the classics to the Apexes and of course the Brown Note Touch, we have introduced Keysoft Lite, and Keysoft is HumanWare's flagship accessibility suite, giving you the tools to be more productive on a refreshable Braille display than ever before. So Keysoft Lite is a lighter version of the main Keysoft, and we'll touch base on Keysoft apps later on in this session. So we're going to talk about the Brailliant BI 20X, and it is the perfect companion. What's in the box? Well, of course, you'll have the Brailliant BI 20X itself. You'll have a USB-C to a USB-A cable, a USB to AC adapter. You have a print getting starting guide, and a carrying case with shoulder strap. Now, once you get it out of the box and we unveil out of the nylon case, we reveal the top layer will be the Perkins keyboard. So you'll have 8 keys on the top, and just underneath that you'll have your 20-cell Braille cells with cursor keys, and just below your Braille display you will have 2 space bars. Now the dimensions, and I'm going to give these units in inches. Dimensions is 3.3 inches by 7.2 inches by just under 1 inch. That's the dimension of the Brailliant BI 20X. Now, if you're familiar with the Braille Note PK, now that's going back in the past. I would say it's a similar sort of size to the Brailliant PK. So quite light, quite small, weighs 400 grams or less than 1 pound. So very light and portable for sure. So I said the top layer of your Perkins keyboard. You'll have two space bars with your Braille display in the middle. And at the front of the unit, we have our HumanWare signature thumb keys. Starting from the very left is your previous thumb key. And as we go towards the right, we have our left panning key. Then we come across a center button, a round button, which is the home button. And then we have the right panning thumb key, and then the next thumb key. On the left edge, we have USB-C port. Now, the USB-C port is a standard for all our blindness products now. It's great because it doesn't matter which way you insert that USB cable, and it's used for multiple tasks. So obviously for charging, and it takes a good 3 hours to fully charge your device, and you'll get 20 hours battery life. The second task of this USB-C port is, of course, to connect it to a Braille terminal. If you want to use it with USB, if you want to connect it to JAWS or NVDA, you can do so. And also the third task is if you want to transfer files to and from your PC. And what's great about this is that you can still have your screen reader, and it acts like a mass storage device. So you'll be able to transfer files to and from the device whilst connected to your screen reader. So that's the USB-C port, which is at the back edge of the Brailliant 20X. Now, as you come closer towards you, we have an LED power indicator. We then have an oval shaped power button. And this power button acts a bit like your mobile phone. It's like a lock button. So there's multiple ways to turn your device on and off. So if it's completely shut down, you'll need to press and hold that power button for 3 seconds. You'll feel a short vibration followed by the message starting in Braille. Of course, once it's turned on fully and you just want to lock the device, turn it to sleep, it's just a single press of that button. Further down, we come across a USB port, great for external storage. So this is what's great about the Brailliant ranges. It's very flexible in how you can transfer files to and from the device. So a USB port where you can plug in your thumb drives. And at the very corner edge, we have a lanyard slot. To the right side of the unit, we have an audio jack. And at the moment, audio is not active. Now, audio will become available in the not so near future, but at the moment, audio is not active. Further down that right-hand edge, as we come from the back towards you, it's the volume up key and the volume down. Again, these two buttons are not currently active. And then we have a small rectangular gap, which is the speaker. So you do have, again, a speaker. Again, not active. We're waiting for a future update to allow audio. And then at the very right edge is the lanyard slot. At the back edge of the Brailliant BI 20X, we have one available SD port socket. Now, under the hood, as I call it, we're going to talk about what's inside, the technology that's being used. So it is based on a Linux platform. The internal storage is 16 gigabytes. Now, if 16 gigabyte is not enough, as I said, you can insert your SD cards, and your SD cards, you can go up to 64 gigabyte. It's compatible with exFAT and NTFC. And of course, you have the option for your USB thumb drive. So again, plenty of storage available to you. Bluetooth 4.2, and the Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz. So Wi-Fi routers, it will connect to 2.4 gigahertz and not 5 gigahertz. It has a mono speaker, as I mentioned, and it does have a removable battery that lasts 20 hours. Okay, now to the Brailliant BI 40X then. What's in the box here? So again, you'll have the 40X Braille display. You'll have the similar peripherals, the USB-C to USB-A cable. You'll have the AC adapter, the print getting started guide, and another carrying case with shoulder strap. To the orientation then, firstly, the dimensions. We have 12 inches by 3.5 inch, and again, just under 1 inch for the thickness. Weighing at 700 grams, equivalent to 1.5 pounds. So the top face of the Brailliant BI 40X, again, we have the traditional Perkins key, keyboard. It's very ergonomic, and it's utilizing the same keys. So the actual 8 keys are using the same keys as our predecessor. So people love those Braille keys. They said how quiet they were, how they enjoyed the movements. But what we have made some changes is on the space bar. So we have, again, just underneath the Braille display, which is situated in the middle, is 2 space bars again. And we have made some changes there to get the same feel as the Perkins keys themselves. Either side of the 4T cell Braille display, we have our command keys. Again, similar to the predecessor, we have 3 command keys on the left and 3 command keys on the right. If we have a look just to the top left of the top face, so this is left of the dot 7, we have our left speaker, and to the right of the dot 8, we have a right speaker. So then 2 grills. So this has the Brailliant BI 40X has stereo speakers built in. Again, these speakers are not active currently. And at the top right corner of the Brailliant 40X, there's a small hole, which is the microphone. Again, this is not active yet. At the front edge, very familiar, we have the HumanWare's signature thumb keys again. So again, starting from the left, we have previous thumb key, the left panning key. The very center button is a home button. That's the round shaped button. And then as we go to the right, we have a larger rectangular key, which is our right panning key, and then a small rectangular key, which is the next thumb key. Left side edge, we have a USB-C port. Again, it can do the same functions as what the 20X does. So you connect it to your Braille display as a Braille terminal. Charging is 3 hours, 20 hours of battery life. And again, you can use it as a mass storage device. We then have an oval shaped button again for your power button. Same function, press and hold to completely turn on, or if you want to completely shut it down, you press and hold that button again. Or if it's on, just a simple press and release to turn it to sleep. And then we have a USB port on that left-hand edge. Now there's nothing on the back edge, so the Brailliant BI 40X does not have an SD card socket. On the right edge, we have an audio jack and we have a volume up keys and volume down. Again, anything related to audio at this point, it's not active. Under the hood, so again, it's utilizing the same platform, a Linux platform. This time, however, we have increased the internal storage. The 40X has 32 gigabytes of internal storage. And for the first time in a Braille display, we'll have a Bluetooth 5 and can connect to Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz frequency ranges. It has built-in stereo speakers, a microphone, and it does have an internal battery that lasts 20 hours. This does not have a removable battery. Okay, before I talk about some of the other differences, both these platforms, both the Brailliant BI X Series 20 and 40, include Keysoft Lite. Okay, now what is Keysoft Lite, you may be asking yourself? Well, it's the experience that you face when you use this product. Now, it really introduces the start of an ecosystem of HumanWare's Braille technology. So if you're familiar with any kind of HumanWare established Keysoft product, so maybe it was an Apex, maybe it was an old Braille Note, transition to a Braille display like a Brailliant 20 or 40X, you'll be flying with ease. It's very intuitive. It has the similar commands to navigate around, so your first letter navigation. We have a contextual menu, so if you do get stuck at a certain point, you could bring up your contextual menu and that will tell you what commands that you can do. So very intuitive and effective, and as I said, it allows to easily transition from one device to another, avoiding that big learning curve when you start to introduce a new product. But some of the hardware differences here, and I just want to point this out first of all. So firstly is the internal storage. I mentioned the 40 has 32 gigabyte, the 20 has 16 gigabyte. The 40X has stereo speakers and the Brailliant BI 20X only has mono speakers. The Brailliant 40X does have command keys. The 20X does not have command keys. The BI 40X has a microphone, and has Bluetooth 5, and the Brailliant 20X does not have a microphone and uses Bluetooth 4.2. And then the Wi-Fi frequency differences. So the Bluetooth, the Brailliant BI 40X supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, whereas the Brailliant BI 20X only supports the 2.4 gigahertz frequency. The BI 20X though does have SD cards where the 40X doesn't, and of course the 20X has a removable battery, the 40X does not. But software and what we're going to be talking to you today about is identical. They both have Keysoft Lite, and we will touch base on some of those applications, and we'll talk you through some live demonstrations briefly. But of course, going forward, at some point with the hardware differences, there will be, of course, some differences in the software at a later stage. But for now, the software is identical. Now, for your information, we offer a variety of resources, and they are available in different mediums. We have the audio tutorial guides from our good friends at Mystic Assets. They do a fantastic job. So if you want to listen to the audio tutorial guides, by all means, please visit our HumanWare support page and click Brailliant BIX, or you can visit Mystic Access's website, and the audio tutorial guides will be readily available from their site too. We also have a written step-by-step how-to guides, which are provided on the HumanWare Buddy app. So if you're not familiar with the HumanWare Buddy app, the HumanWare Buddy app is a great application that has all of its resources in one place. If you have an iOS device or an Android device, simply install the free app and you'll be able to search for tasks that you want to achieve on your product. And then lastly, we have snapshot video tutorials, again, available in the Buddy app, but also on our website. So now to the live demonstration, and Peter, are you there?
Andrew, I'm always here, man. I live here.
Awesome. So you're going to go through some of the StarNet experience. What will happen when you first turn on your device? You'll talk about some basic navigation within Keysoft Lite, configuring your Braille profiles, connecting to Wi-Fi, of course, and explain why we want to connect to Wi-Fi, and then lead on to the Braille terminal, pairing it with your iOS, and of course, using it with the likes of JAWS, and then how you would switch between those connected devices.
Exactly. We have our work cut out for us, Andy, but I think I can do it in 17 minutes and 14 seconds. Are you ready?
I'm timing you.
No, don't time me. I have no clue, but I will try, everybody, to do it as seamlessly as possible, and really to really give you a sense of how this device uses Keysoft Lite. I mean, our experience when we, as we walk through the environment of the BI 20 and 40X, we are using Keysoft Lite, and it does make it easy to navigate if we know where we want to go, and it also helps us if we get stuck. And I'll try to touch on that. So as Andrew said, the very first piece is what happens when you turn this device on out of the box. You get it. You find that USB-C port that is on the left side of your, the left edge of your BI 20 or 40X. You plug in your cable, because it's always good to start with a charged unit. So you certainly want to have a unit plugged in and make sure that you're getting a nice charge. Out of box, it generally won't. So you want to plug it in, make sure you're going. Once you turn it on, you will feel a vibration. So there is a vibration motor in the device, and you will come up to a screen that asks you, the very first thing you have to do is to choose your language. And it will say language, and by default, depending on where you are in the world, but by default, we're going to, for this webinar, for the purposes of what we're doing right now, assume that we are using English. So it will say language, English, and if you wanted to change that, you could press enter or a cursor router key on that option to come into where you have your choice of languages. Right now, and Andrew will talk about some updates, but right now our localizations include French and Netherlands or German, Italian, Norwegian, and so on. So you could certainly choose any of those languages. And once you've selected your appropriate language, you will use your next thumb key, or you can press the letter C and move to your close button, or you can use your space bar because we're using Keysoft. So when we use Keysoft and Keysoft Lite here, pressing your spacebar moves you down option by option. So I'll find my close button and press enter, and my unit will restart in the language, making sure that I've chosen the proper language. So again, the very first step here is to choose your appropriate language. And once you choose that language, you'll activate close. And at that point, your unit will restart and you will be on the main menu. The first thing you will see on the main menu is going to be terminal. And this is going to be your Braille terminal. And we'll get into the Braille terminal at the very last part of my demonstration here. But I strongly recommend that you dig up the audio tutorials from Mystic Access. And they're not that hard to dig up. They're on our website. You can also find them at Mystic Access's website. But once you're listening to those, they can walk you through a lot of these steps as well. But I'm always asked, when I enter in a password, or when I'm trying to get my Bookshare credentials logged in, or I'm trying to get onto my Wi-Fi, what code of Braille do I use? And the answer is you use your literary code, or you determine the code of Braille that you're going to use when you drive this device. And so I'll talk about configuring a Braille profile. So what we're going to do is we're on the main menu, and at any point in time, again, as soon as you start that device back up, you're going to come back to the main menu on that initial startup. You can always get there by tapping the home button on the front of your BI 20 or 40X. And if you've used Keysoft for long enough, maybe you've used it since the 90s, maybe since 2003 or 2000 like me, or maybe 2012 or 14 or 18, right? We can fill in the blanks. You can always use a full cell with space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with space will always bring you to your main menu. And from there is where we're going to do this next sort of piece. And it will always help you. If you really get stuck and you're turned around and stuff, you can always go back to your main menu, full cell with spacebar, or tap the home button in between your thumb keys. So when we're on the main menu, we know if we use Keysoft, I want to go into the options menu. I'm going to press O with space. And that is the beauty of Keysoft Lite. So O with space brings me into my options menu. And we're going to configure our Braille profile. I press O with space, and regardless of where you are, you can always use 1, 2, 3 with space to come up to the top of the options menu, but your space bar moves you through all of these different settings. And you'll have things like user settings, Braille profile, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, main menu, which is where you customize the applications that you do or do not want to see on your main menu. You can change your language on the fly. We have exam mode, your about menu. All of these things are in the options menu. But the first thing we want to do is we want to configure our Braille profile. So if we press the letter B or use our spacebar until we find Braille profile, again, we can press B because we're using Keysoft Lite, so first letter navigation, or we can use our next thumb key or our spacebar to find Braille profile. Once we find it, we can press enter or use a cursor router key to activate the Braille profile option, and you will see your Braille profile that is present. It will be underlined, meaning it is selected. So it'll be dots 7 and 8 will be underneath it on the Braille display. At this point, if you want to manipulate or modify this profile, what you need to do, because pressing enter won't do it for you, you need to bring up the context menu. And this can be where a lot of folks get stuck. So when you have that profile in focus, you see the name, in my case it says English, and it's all underlined with dots 7 and 8. I'm going to press M as in menu, M with space to bring up the context menu, and I'm going to use my next thumb key, or you can press the letter C to find configure Braille profile and press enter. And at this point, you're going to be in the spot where you can configure this profile. And we want to do this first so that when we put in that Wi-Fi password, or we put in that Bookshare password or NFB Newsline password, or as we add future libraries, when we're putting in that information, we know the grade of Braille we're going to use. So again, when I press enter on that configure option, I'm placed in the profile name, and I can call this whatever I want. And you can run many Braille profiles. And Andy, you can correct me. I think you can go above 10 at this point. But you can certainly run up to 10 Braille profiles on the device. So if you want English and French and German and Spanish, or you just want a Braille profile with 3 different English Braille codes, you can certainly do that. So we name our Braille profile. We use our next thumb key to come down the list, and the first piece will say Braille grade. And this is going to give us kind of what is our current Braille grade in use. And we can switch this on the fly by pressing backspace with G. So we kind of don't need to worry about this setting it as we configure the profile, but you can certainly change it with a cursor router key if you needed to come into the menu to change it. What you really want to look for here, though, if you use your spacebar or your next thumb key, you will see your computer Braille table option, and you can set this to whatever you'd like. I'm going to keep mine at US, but if you are familiar with UK computer Braille or some other code, you can do that. The only real instance in this case that we are using computer Braille is in the calculator. At this point in time. So when you are on the calculator, that is a basic 4-function calculator, you're using computer Braille. And that computer Braille code is going to be reflected by what you choose in this configuration menu. So are you choosing English US, English UK? We have a lot of the LibLouis tables, so maybe France or Greek or some other ones there. You can certainly choose Hebrew and others if you activate this option. So you do have a computer braille table option. You also have an uncontracted braille option. So when you switch to uncontracted braille, what will that be? What braille code do you want to use there? And you can set that to whatever you would like. Your contracted braille option is next. Again, if you're just using your space bar, and in my case, my contracted braille option says English, UEB Duxbury grade 2. If I want to change that, I can use a cursor router key. You may be more comfortable working in English US. You may be comfortable working in English American textbook. We certainly support all of the Duxbury Braille tables, so there's a lot of Braille tables here, but you do need to set your computer, your uncontracted, and your contracted Braille tables. Once you do that, the option, so again, you press enter on the Braille tables you would like in the lists of computer Braille, uncontracted, and contracted, and you will have a save configuration option at the bottom of this list. And when you press enter, you have now switched your unit and configured your primary or your language profile that you would like. You can always add additional profiles. It's right here in this menu where as soon as you choose Braille profiles, right underneath the currently selected profile, you will see a list of any other profiles you have, and at the bottom an add profile option. L with enter, think of the word language as in language profiles, will switch you between or toggle you through into a list of Braille profiles that you can switch to based on what you have configured. Once you've configured a Braille profile, you are ready to connect to Wi-Fi and ready to rumble. And I always say do this first so that you know what does contracted Braille mean, what does uncontracted Braille mean, and what does computer Braille mean, because you are in control of what grade of Braille you use when you enter passwords. So I'm going to come to the main menu. I'm going to go back into my options menu, so O with space, and I'm going to press the letter W to find Wi-Fi. I'm going to press enter on Wi-Fi, and at this point, I am going to see that Wi-Fi is off, and by default, it is off. So I'm going to press enter to turn it on, and it will say loading. And now Wi-Fi is on, and I can use my next thumb key to find the option that says new connection. And I'm going to press enter on new connection. Again, you could always just press N because we are using Keysoft Lite to find new connection once you're in this Wi-Fi menu. You do have options like status or launch connection or delete connection, network settings, import, lots of things here, but we're just going to go to new connection. Once I press enter, I'll have an option here that I can either scan for an SSID, which is SSID being the name of my network, or I can use WPS or manually connect a router, myself to a network. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say WPS, it's all good. It's a button you can push on your router for Wi-Fi protected setup. Don't worry about it if you're unsure. If you want to manually put in a connection, it could be that you have a hidden network or some other reason that you need to connect. Maybe you have some odd settings or things you need to do advanced wise to configure your network. I'm just going to choose scan for SSID. So I'm going to press enter here, and it will say loading, and then I will see a list of my available networks that I can connect to. Ideally, you would see your home network. Again, if you're on a BI 40X, you're going to see 2.4 and 5 gigahertz networks. If you're on a BI 20X, you will see 2.4 gigahertz networks here. I find the network I want, and I press enter, and then it will say password. And at this point, I'm in a password field. I'm using whatever grade of Braille I tell my device to use. Remember, we configured our Braille tables. Am I working in contracted, uncontracted, or computer Braille? Pressing backspace with G toggles me between these options. The caveat here is, and we're going to change this, and Andrew will talk about this in the updates, but if I'm in computer Braille, I need to add space to the backspace and G command to switch it out of computer Braille, and then I can use backspace with G to move between contracted or uncontracted. So when you press backspace with G, you're moving between those tables. And what's beautiful about this is if I say, well, my Wi-Fi password, I want to use contracted UEB Braille. That's what I've set my Braille profile to use. So I can press backspace with G or just make sure that I'm reading contracted Braille on my Braille display. That means I can enter and use contracted Braille, UEB contracted, to enter my password. And I'm going to do that. So right now it says password. I know I'm using contracted Braille. I'm going to enter my password using contracted Braille here. And I can easily do that in UEB. Remember, we're using contracted UEB, so I need to put in my number sign before my number. You're not dropping anything. You're not doing that because we're in UEB contracted Braille. If we were using computer Braille, there would be different rules, or uncontracted Braille, there would be different rules for putting in this password. Once I've entered my password, I press enter, I get a loading message, and then once it connects to my network, I get a network, it will say connection successful, and you will have 2 beeps that indicate you are connected to Wi-Fi. At this point, you can certainly turn those beeps off if you would like. That's in the options menu. It's a customizable setting if you don't want the beeps, but I can use my home button and come back to my main menu. So again, moving kind of quickly, but you are in control of the grade of Braille you use when you enter these passwords for Bookshare, for Wi-Fi, for NLS Bard, for when you're using your Braille catalog, whatever it may be, you are in control. And you do that by configuring your Braille profile, and then you can easily switch between contracted or uncontracted or computer Braille by using backspace with G. Just remember, if you're in computer Braille, to get out of it, pressing backspace G won't do you any good because that just makes an uppercase G. So you need to add space to that command.
And Peter, that is certainly a frequently asked question indeed of how to enter those passwords. And don't forget the grade 1 indicator, the letter sign, some people may know it as well. So if you've got a mix of numbers and letters, remember when you're using UAB contracted Braille, that will need to be applied too.
Exactly. If you're an uncontracted, don't forget the rules. A lot of times I have very frustrated folks who will say, I'm trying, I'm doing it as I should. And I'll say, did you use your letter sign? Because you are currently an uncontracted. And they'll be like, wow, I forgot.
So
We
Peter,
have to follow those rules.
so what is the reason for Wi-Fi? Why would you want to connect to the Wi-Fi?
Well, there's a few reasons. And when it comes to what we've tried to do with this product, and, when we listen to that feedback, and Andrew, I know you've been tracking down and obtaining feedback for years as a product manager on our Braille products. And one thing we've always heard is we need to be able to update these devices wirelessly. The days of using that Braille terminal tools to run an update and it conflicted with your screen reader, or it was just a very challenging kind of, we need to had our packages and stuff manually, those days are over. So Wi-Fi is used first and foremost to update your Braille, your Brailliant BI 20 or 40X. Secondly, you're using Wi-Fi to connect to your online libraries. So right now at launch, we have 3 of them, and that will grow. We currently support NFB Newsline, NLS Bard, the Braille catalog, and Bookshare. And those are the 3 libraries that are currently supported. And Andrew, I know at the end of this, you can touch on what may be coming, because we'll always add, if you think of what we support on a Victor Reader product, we have lots and lots of libraries all over the world. And we're very conscious of that in terms of adding libraries. I've heard a lot of feedback from folks saying, I live in Canada, or I live in New Zealand, I live in Norway. Where's my library? And it certainly will be coming to the device. So Wi-Fi is used for those two pieces. We're going to use it to get our updates, which we will be talking about the new features of an update at the end of this webinar, because we're already ready for 1.1. And then we also use it to connect to those online services. All right, let's rock and roll. We're going to come through and we will connect and talk about pairing to iOS. And we'll talk about JAWS, some basic commands, and emulating, really talking about modifier keys, because it comes up a lot and I do want to address it, and then how we easily switch between devices. Then I'll toss it back over to Andrew. Now, I would do this with sharing my screen, but there's currently a nasty Zoom bug where when I use VoiceOver in Zoom, I get a lot of lag. So I'm going to talk through the process, but really it's not much talking through, because now we're using the new HID protocol. What that means is, and Andrew, you've been in these meetings, Andy, right? You've been in these fancy people meetings with Apple and Microsoft and all the manufacturers and all the screen reader companies, right?
A while ago, yes, it was around about 2 years ago, we had a discussion. And really the whole idea about this new Braille HID protocol is to get a new standard where a plug and play system would allow you to plug a Braille display and it would automatically detect what that display is. Very much similar like your keyboards. When you plug in a keyboard, a USB keyboard, it automatically understands that it is a QWERTY keyboard. And it knows where all the buttons are. So it's the same sort of concept. Now, of course, the new Braille HID protocol is only applied to screen readers that are supporting the new Braille HID. And currently, the only one that is supporting it is the iOS device. So Apple are the only ones at the moment, and soon will be the Android. And hopefully at later stage that Jaws will join at some stage, maybe next year.
Yeah,
But
as will
neither way,
Microsoft.
there are
And
alternative ways to connect. So if the screen reader hasn't got the new Braille here, of course we pass on the drivers to that manufacturer.
exactly. And the point of this is when you want to connect to iOS for the first time, you're really connecting it like you would connect any other Bluetooth peripheral. So you're going into, instead of going into VoiceOver, going into Braille, and depending on your version of iOS, you might have to go to General and then VoiceOver and then, or General, then Accessibility, then VoiceOver, then Braille, or so on. Now you can just tell Siri to open Bluetooth, or you can just go into settings and double tap on Bluetooth, and it will bring up your list of Bluetooth devices where you would find your headphones and your speakers, and any of those pieces. You will now see your Brailliant BI 20 or 40X in that list. And that is a massive step forward. And what it does is as soon as you double tap, not only does it pair, but the Braille becomes active. So you're not going through those steps. And that's the beauty of this HID protocol. And with anything new, we had growing pains, right, Andy?
Oh yeah, we had a lot of growing pains there. We
So
certainly, yeah. I
so
won't go too
within
much into that.
it was so with iOS 14.4.4, those are resolved. So if you're running anything earlier than iOS 14.4.4, you definitely want to update. Of course, with 14.5, that will all be resolved as well. But there was a little bit of a hiccup where devices were having issues pairing. And that was, again, it's a new protocol. It is going to be the future for not just us, for many Braille devices moving forward. And we're the first to join the club, and it was a little bit of a learning thing there. So that has been resolved. So again, when you pair, just open Bluetooth, and boom, you're going to be able to pair your Braille display straight away. Once you are paired, it is very easy to switch over to another device. And I'll talk a little bit about some JAWS commands before I kind of get into how we switch between devices. But it is going to be a single sort of key press to get you back into the menu to move between your PC, your Mac, your iOS device, your tablet, whatever you might have. You can have your 5 Bluetooth or 1 USB connection simultaneously. And it is one key press to do that. When you are using JAWS, so if you're using JAWS 2021, the drivers are included, so you can go in and you have to add your Braille display through JAWS. You'll go into your JAWS window, open your menu bar, come down to Braille, and you'll be able to add a Braille display there and choose your Brailliant BIX unit. If you're using JAWS 2018, 2019, or 2020, you're going to have to install the Brailliant, the BI, the Braille Terminal tools. There's a new version of that on our support page that you will have to install to actually get the drivers to show up. Meaning to get, when you go into your Braille display list and it says what Braille display do you want to add, the Brailliant BI 20 or 40X won't be in the list unless you install the drivers. So again, 2018, 2019, and 2020, you're going to have to install those. If you're running 2021, you're good to go. Or soon enough, it'll be 2022, and that version will be good and everything forward. So keep that in mind. You may have to install those drivers. Once you do that, once you pair the display, and again, you can do this via USB. It will just connect through your COM port, or you can pair via Bluetooth. You can totally do that as well. And NVDA has an auto detect that'll see it right away. It's part of NVDA. So as long as you keep your NVDA updated, you're good to go. If you're using JAWS, though, you do need to pair. If you're going to pair it with JAWS via Bluetooth, you need to make sure that you're coming in and actually pairing it with your computer first. So every computer will be slightly different on how you do this. But if you're on the main menu of your Brailliant, so I'm pressing my home button and I'm on my main menu, I press enter on terminal. And at this point, what I will do is press enter on add Bluetooth device. And again, you can just press A to jump there quickly, but you'll go to add Bluetooth device and press enter. And at this point, you will get a message that will bring you in and say activating Bluetooth. And you'll be in as long as your Bluetooth is on, which you turn on in your options menu. You will receive a message on your Braille display that says activate your device in your host device's Bluetooth settings. So you would need to pair the device with your computer. So go into your computer's Bluetooth and pair it up there. And once there, then you would add it to JAWS. Once paired, once you're connected, you do need to go into your connected devices list, and you will actually activate your device in the list. So when you're in your terminal, you have something that says connected devices. Any device that is connected is followed by an 8-dot full cell. So that's how you will know, do I have an active connection with my iPhone, with JAWS, with my iOS device, or whatever it may be. You will have a full cell, meaning 8-dot full cell, in that connected devices list. Once you press enter on it, you will then be controlling your computer. So again, it is a two-step process. First, you need to pair it via Bluetooth. Once it is paired, you're going to be put into that connected devices list, and you need to select your computer from that list. Once you're paired, I'm always asked, how do we activate certain commands? Because a lot of users, now I am someone who uses the keyboard a lot. I'm a JAWS user. I have been a JAWS user for a long, long time, and NVDA and all sorts of things. But when I'm using my computer, I don't always, but I like to sometimes use modifier keys on my Braille display itself. So I use my keyboard, but if I know what I'm doing, and if I really want to get somewhere quick, I will just use the Braille keyboard. And you can use your Brailliant BI 20 or 40X just as you use the original Brailliant BI that we've had for more than 10 years. You can use that to input modifier keys. And the way you do that is it's kind of finger acrobatics, but it is very useful if you're on the move, or you're just kind of doing things quickly, or maybe your laptop lid is closed or whatever it may be. What you need to do is you will press space with .8, .8 being enter, in conjunction with a modifier key. And that will then be followed by the key you want to press. So in this command, right, we're going to do something like Alt D, as in dove, Alt D. Now to press Alt, again, I said space with .8 combined with, and if you think of it this way, Control is .3, Alt is .2, Windows key is .1, and so on. So if I wanted to press Alt D, I would press space, .8, and .1 simultaneously, let them all go, and then press the letter D, as in dove, like Alt D to get to your address bar. You can do this for function keys. You can certainly enter F1 through F12. You can enter your control, your Windows, your insert, your JAWS key. All of these, and there is a resource under the Brailliant BI, the original Brailliant BI page, which we will update for the BIX page. But there is a resource that tells you how to work with these modifiers, and you can easily do that. So you can use your Braille display to enter or to execute modifier keys like Control, Windows, Alt, your function keys, insert key, and so on. So keep that in mind, because it is an advanced use case, and I will certainly be doing some webinars on it as we go forward, because I know it's used a lot, especially in the deafblind community. It's used a lot there. It's also used, I've been in meetings and things where I need to quickly close something, and I might just do it on the actual Braille display as opposed to reaching up to my keyboard. So it is an option, and you can certainly execute commands that way. The command keys also come in very handy when you're using something like JAWS, because you don't have to hit Alt D or Windows M every time you want to go to the desktop. We have command keys. There are lots of uses of these command keys, but the command keys, as Andrew had mentioned, on the BI 40, to the left of your Braille display, you have 1, 2, 3. To the right of your Braille display, you have 4, 5, 6. So if I use command keys 1, 4, and 5, I bring my focus to the desktop. Think of the Braille letter D, but I'm not using the Braille input keyboard to type that D. I'm using command keys 1, 4, 5. And there are lots of uses for these command keys. There is a current side of things where the command keys are not behaving generally as expected in iOS, and that's something we're working with Apple on getting resolved. So if you're trying to use your command keys when you control your iPhone, we are having some mapping issues there, which we are fully aware of, Apple's aware of, so we're working on getting that fixed. But as of right now, it's kind of, it's not behaving as it should. But those command keys will come in very useful once it is fixed for iOS, but always when you're using JAWS as well. There's a reason why those command keys exist. You can quickly pull up a links list, or check the time, or move your focus to the desktop, or switch between your JAWS and your PC cursor, and so on. Those really are very versatile in what they can do. The last piece of my demo here, and I call it a demo, but we know there's no video output on this device and there's no speech, so it's really me talking through this demo. We do have lots of audio and video tutorials that more so walk you through and show you the visuals and give you kind of the sense of what's going on. But in this case, you just get to hear myself kind of babble. But the last piece is, how do we switch between devices? I'm currently controlling JAWS. How do I switch over to my iPhone? They're both paired, or maybe I have 4 devices paired. How do I move between them? And the way you quickly move between them is when you're in your Braille terminal, you'll tap your home button, on the front of your BI 20 or 40X, and you will be placed into your connected devices list. And the first option is USB connection, meaning you could quickly switch to that, or you can use the first letter of the device you'd like to connect to. My phone is called Fun and Such. If you ever are at a conference and you find a device you can connect to called Fun and Such, you will know I'm in the room. So I can just press F though to jump right to Fun and Such and press enter. And now I will be controlling my phone. If I want to come back to my computer, again, I tap the home button on the front of my BI 20 or 40X. It puts me into that connected devices list. And I can then come in and say, well, I want to connect to my computer, which is HCA for HumanWare Canada laptop. So I can press H, or I can press W to go to my wife's phone, or whatever it is, whatever the devices are labeled as. I can easily jump through to them with first letter navigation and just press enter. So again, we tap the home button, it puts us into our device list, and we press the first letter, or we use space or backspace to move up and down that list and press enter on the device we want. So we can quickly toggle between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bluetooth devices and one USB connection on the fly. Andrew, I think everybody's heard me talk enough. I am certainly good at it, but I'm not a fan of it. So I'm going to toss it back over to you, and we're going to talk about kind of what's in the box. And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear about what's new at some point, but you might hear from me again too.
Yeah, well, that's 28 minutes, so well over the 17
Oh,
minutes time.
no, dude.
So just a few things, just want to point out, again, just in case people may be thinking about this, is when you are pairing via Bluetooth, there are no passwords needed. Okay, no passwords are required. When you do put your device in discovery mode, so as Peter mentioned, you click on add Bluetooth device and it gives you that prompt in Braille. What you're theoretically doing is putting your device in the discovery mode, very much like all your headphones and stereo speakers that you get nowadays. You get your device and you have to put them in discovery mode, and that discovery mode puts you in for 5 minutes. Okay, so you have 5 minutes then to go to your host device to get your Braille display paired up. And one last thing about the switching between devices is that the Brailliant BI also has a wake up iOS function. So if your iPhone is turned off, well, not turned off, but locked, and you've connected to it, you can simply press the cursor key to unlock that device, and you'll be able to enter your PIN if you wish.
How did I miss that one, Andrew?
Well, yeah, I know.
I forgot
was
to talk
surprised,
about
Peter.
it. That's one of the
Yeah.
biggest features of this product is being able to wake your phone up when it's in your pocket. It is absolutely awesome to press a cursor router key and wake that phone up.
But anyway, moving on. Thanks very much for that, Peter. I'm just going to talk about some of the other Keysoft Lite applications, and it's really going to be a brief sort of overview of the applications here. I mean, as we mentioned, there's a lot of resources. The audio tutorial guides are fantastic to give you a more in-depth look into these applications. But we do have an onboard editor called Keypad. Now, this editor is certainly not going to replace the likes of your Microsoft Word processor that you perhaps use on your computer. It is a basic editor, but basic, it's still quite powerful, I've got to say. I mean, you can create some notes, you can open all kinds of different file formats, from docx to DOC to TXT files to BRF, your Braille files. You can open this up all in your editor. When you do open up or create files in your editor, it will be creating TXT files. So on the fly, it's converting what you're typing in Braille to print directly. So when you go to save your notes, it will automatically put it in as a TXT file. You can then save it to an SD card or USB, and you can then pass it to someone who's one of your sighted peers, and they'll be able to open it up and read that in print if they wish. Again, if you have got text files, docx files, you can bring them in, no problem at all. You haven't got to convert them. It does this all on the device. Simple, easy, and enjoyable, I like to say. So the editor has restrictions on file size limits on certain files. Generally, in the editor, you're probably looking at about 2 megabytes of a file. So if you want to open them up and you want to make changes or edit, if the file is greater than 2 megabytes, you'll probably get a prompt to say file too large. However, if you want to open them up and read, just purely read those files, you can open them up in the Victor Reader application. And the Victor Reader application will allow you to open files up to 100 megabytes, purely because it's just in a read-only mode. You're not going to be editing it. The great thing with the Victor Reader is it does allow you to bookmark places. So if you do want to open up a book and bookmark certain positions, perhaps you want to enter a number of a bookmark and jump there at a later period, or highlight a book, an area in your book, you can do that within the Victor Reader application. Again, the Victor Reader app is compatible with various different file formats, the docx, the HTML, TXT, BRF and BRL. And one of the useful tip here is if you are familiar, if you'd like to open up your Braille files, BRF files or BRL files, I would personally recommend opening them up in the Victor Reader, because you're not going to translate them. If, however, you want to edit those BRF files, the only way is to open up in the editor. You will be prompted how you want to convert them. It will ask you which table, which Braille table do you want to use to convert them into a printed file format. Okay, so just bear that in mind. If you are opening up BRF files and you just want to read them, I would recommend opening them up in the Victor Reader application. The Victor Reader app, though, is a great app because not only does it allow you to read your files, such as your DSE and HTML files, but also your books that you've just downloaded from the online libraries. And this, to me, is one of the great functions on this device. I mean, we talk about reading a lot of context. You know, if you want to grab books from online libraries such as Bookshare or NLS Bard or NFB Newsline, one of your magazines or newspapers, this device is incredible. It gives you an easy way of downloading those resources, because frankly, if you're using your Braille display with one of those apps, we've all come across this, right? When you connect it up to your iPhone or Android device and you're trying to use one of the apps, maybe you're using the NLS Bard app, you come across some issues, hurdles. You know, maybe it's certainly not an efficient way, it's not very productive. There's always having to move forwards and backwards. With the online library access on these devices, it's simple. It really is. And really encourage you, if you do have your device, register to Bookshare if you haven't already, and you know, get reading. Moving on from the Victor Reader, we of course have a file manager, and the file manager is very similar to our Braille notes. So if you're used to Braille note, you can open up your file manager, you can quickly jump to your storage devices, you USB, SD card, you can copy, you can cut, you can move, you can create folders, delete them. Again, managing your files, various different levels as well. So if you do like to create subfolders, the file manager is a great tool for you. And remember the contextual menu. I mean, we haven't really talked about that much. The contextual menu is a great training tool. And if you ever get stuck in any of these applications, pressing space with M will bring up your context menu and will run you through a list of available tasks that you can do. So if you are in the file manager and you're not sure how to copy, press space and M and navigate through the list, and it will give you the shortcut. Not only will it give you the shortcut, you can action it from that contextual menu. So it's a great training tool. I always like to say it's my go-to button. So if you do get stuck, give that a go. And if you still get stuck, then of course we're a phone call away. And then we of course have the calculator, as Peter touched base on. It's a basic calculator, and it is based on computer Braille. We've touched base on the online libraries, of course, and of course the options menu, which we've discovered. There's a lot of options, a lot of user settings that you can change, from changing your beep settings to your confirming your deletions, all kinds of different settings that are available in the Brailliant BI X series. A little bit of a deep dive in the editor. Some of the things that I forgot to mention: auto scroll. You're able to do the auto scrolling both in the editor application and in the Victor Reader. You can insert date and time. You can toggle between your read and edit modes as well if you wish. If you are in the editor, you can toggle to a read mode only by pressing your space with the letter X. And of course, you can toggle between your learning your language profile. So again, if you have got multiple learning language profiles, you can switch by pressing Enter and L whilst in your document. And as I mentioned, when you are creating contents in the editor, you will be saving them as plain text files, TXT.
And I'll say, just before you jump in, Andrew, to kind of new, because I just want to stall everyone and make everyone wait for the new features. No, I'm just kidding. But I do want to say that, there's been some, uh, we have a user list, and I think sometimes there's certain misconceptions, or somebody is kind of confused as to what the editor will bring forward. A lot of what we're trying to do is to create more of a hybrid product. This is first and foremost a Braille display. So when we think of the editor and we think of what we traditionally have on a note taker, we have math, we have the ability to print, we have a lot of sharing options to get documents out into the cloud. We have lots of pieces. That functionality is not something that we've intended to be on this editor at this point in time. So it isn't that it's not going to happen. It isn't that we can't do something. But our expectations and what we're trying to do with this product is create onboard Braille translation. From our feedback that we've received over the years, it's been, I want to take notes in meetings and have them easily readable when I get to my PC, or I want to take them and move them over to another device. Onboard Braille translation for reading. It is not going to do your heavy lifting. If you need to do something complex, you should by all means be using Microsoft Word. You should be using something, even Keyword has its limitations if we think of what we're doing on a note taker in terms of stylization and all of that, footnotes and endnotes and all of these things. So, we don't want to mislead anybody. If you're thinking about this product, it is called Keysoft Lite. We certainly know that we have features of Keysoft, but we're not using a full-fledged version of Keysoft, both app-based as well as just kind of what it's going to contain. And that doesn't mean it won't grow. We're about to hear about a couple of pieces that came way sooner to the device than I thought they would. And that will be the case in point as we move forward, where we're going to bring pieces in. But if you're really looking for a device that is going to be a Braille powerhouse in terms of the editor and kind of that localized functionality, it might be worth assessing what it is you're trying to do and making sure that this is the right device for you, or making sure that you're comfortable using some of those advanced word processors.
One other thing I just forgot to mention, Peter, is the DAISY navigation. So again, the great thing about the Victor Reader application is it does allow for DAISY elements. So if you do have a DAISY book, you can open that up. Of course, text only, and you can navigate by various different levels, chapters, headings, and so on. Likewise with the user guide. So you have got the onboard user guide, which again is navigable via DAISY elements. Okay, so without further ado, let's touch base on some of the upcoming enhancements, shall we? So this is yeah, this is version 1.1.1. Okay, 1.1.1, and it is coming soon. And I know people are saying, well, how soon? It's coming soon. That's all I'm going to commit to at this point. So what is coming? Well, we are expanding our file supports. We are now going to be able to open up PDF files, text PDF files. So you'll be able to open them in the editor. You'll be able to open them up in the Victor Reader application. Now, the great thing with PDF is that you'll be able to open up 200 megabytes of PDF files in the Victor Reader application. Okay. Of course, all formatting pictures will be ignored. It's just going to grab the text and put that into a text environment. So it's not going to grab any formatting as such. We're also introducing a global shortcut for a quick note creation. So imagine you're in a situation where you are just reading, you just thought about a quick note that you've forgotten. You need to get some groceries and you want to quickly just jot a quick note. You can create a quick note from anywhere within the Keysoft Lite environment by pressing backspace with the letter N for new. Okay, so any point, backspace N, boom, you're in your file, you can start creating. At that point, you can then save at later date. We've also introducing the hiding of the options items. So currently we can customize the main menu. So you can show and hide some of your menu items, but at the moment, it won't allow you to hide the options menu. The update will allow you to hide both the options menu and the power off menu. So this is great if perhaps you're just a beginner, you just want to see the terminal there, or perhaps it's just a word processor that you use. You can hide and show what applications you want to see on that main menu. And now you can toggle between 2 tables instead of 3. And Peter touched base on this when we talked about toggling between your computer braille, uncontracted and contracted tables. And that can become a bit of a nuisance, certainly if you want to, be a bit more efficient in learning braille, like contracted braille. Maybe you're just learning uncontracted and you want to switch to contracted to see how it appears. And instead, at the moment, computer braille gets in the way, which then means you have to press backspace, space, and the letter G. So now what you'll be able to do is when you set up your braille profiles, instead of setting your computer braille table to perhaps US computer braille, you can set it to none. Or perhaps you want to set your contracted table to none if you're not using contracted. And basically, once you press backspace G, whatever's set to none, it will not be in that list. So if I do set computer braille to none, I can switch between my uncontracted and my contracted tables with ease by pressing backspace G again. Great if you're just transitioning from uncontracted to contracted braille. We're then introducing a government mode. Now, this government mode is on request only. So it is from production. You can't just load government mode when you update it. It is a mode that restricts all internal applications and locks you into a terminal state. So no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no internal applications. It's just a real dumbed down braille display in USB only, and that is in government mode, and that is available upon request. Okay, so if you are working in a government secured environment and your employees are saying, well, sorry, you can't have that device because it's got internal storage, then the option is to convert it into government mode. We do have more localization. So in addition, we'll have Spanish, and we have Italian, we have Dutch. I think we're going to support around about 15 languages. And then lastly, automatically creating some default folders. So we're going to create documents and books folders. They will be your default folders that will be loaded. There will also be a release notes folder that will be created. So future updates, when a new update becomes available, you can simply read those release notes by going into the release notes folder and reviewing what's changed or what's new. And you may be asking, how do I update? Now, Peter, we're just over a little bit of time. Do you want to quickly run through how to update?
Absolutely. So the updates will be available on our website firstly. So if you do want to update manually, you can do that once it is active. However, if you are connected to Wi-Fi, you will receive a notification that an update is available, and you can absolutely check for an update there. You can also, and this will change, you will be able to find your update once you do update. Any future updates that we push will be in the options menu. As of right now, if you want to manually check for an update, you can press space with I followed by the letter C a couple of times to find that check for update option manually. Again, that will be gone once we get to version 1.1.1. At that point, the options menu will contain an option in there that says software update, and you'll be able to check for updates that way. So a couple of pieces, but you will be notified as soon as that update drops. You will be notified over Wi-Fi. We will certainly be pushing that out, and you can also manually check for updates, or you can install it manually right from a thumb drive. It's a matter of just downloading the update from our website. If you go to our website, www.humanware.com, click on the support link, click on Brailliant BIX, and then once you're there, you will have you can download the desired package that you want, and you'll be able to put it on a thumb drive as soon as you put that thumb drive in your unit. Or if you have a BI-20X, you could use an SD card. Or actually, no, it'll just be thumb drive. I forgot. Just thumb drive. Forget what I said. The SD card doesn't exist. Hopefully the archive of this, we will edit that out, and magically I will have never said it. No,
for the 20X, Peter, the SD card, yes.
But if you're using the thumb drive though, you will put the update on your thumb drive, insert it in your unit, and it will say, do you want to install this update? You'll say yes, and boom, you can do it manually offline that way as well.
Awesome.
But I'm excited. Well, great. I'm loving PDF, and I'm loving the global quick note shortcut because I'm using both quite a bit right now. So
and more will come. I mean, the great thing is that this
Oh yeah.
device has a lot of potential. But now the floor is yours, and I asked if you'd like to ask any questions. By all means, you can raise your hand. So I've now enabled the raise hands option. So if you press Alt plus Y, that will allow you to raise your hands. I'll unmute you. You can ask your questions. You can pop your questions in the Q&A, or of course you can send us a chat. Alternatively, if you don't have the time to ask us any questions, by all means, you can contact us at humanwarelive@humanware.com and ask us a question, and we'll get a reply out to you as
Absolutely.
soon
And I
as.
will say we're going to be respectful of 1 a.m. over there, Andrew. So we're going to, or 2 a.m. or whatever it is. So we're going to take some, but please, if we don't go as long as we can't get to everybody, we will try. Please ask your question. We'll mute you when you ask your question and we'll move on. So just so you know, we want to get through this. It is late for Andrew. We both have little babies that we need to find at some point, some time for. So we're gonna move on through it. All right, Andy, who's got
All
their
right.
hand up?
Well, there's a first question that's come in the Q&A section as, can you convert TXT to DOCS in editor? Will this happen in the future? So the quick answer is no, you're not able to convert files in the editor. So what will happen is when you open up a file, say convert, when you do open up a file, so if it is a DOC file, then it will of course convert to TXT when you open it up and change, but you're unable to force the conversion back to DOCX or
Right,
any
there's no save as. It's going to
yeah.
convert everything to TXT. So when you're working in the editor, you are working in TXT. It's the
Now,
simplest way to put it.
exactly. And so this is, as I said, it's a basic editor. Will it happen in the future? I don't know, maybe. We'll have to certainly review that, but remember, it's a TXT. You can still open up your TXT files in Microsoft Word, where you can then start to make those formatting changes and make your document look pretty if you need to. Okay, next then, let's have a look under the raised hands. We have a couple of people raise their hands. So we have Lorelei.
Lorelei. Rock and
Hi.
roll. How's it
Hi.
going?
So I wanted to know, whenever I go to switch connections between my iPhone and my desktop, if I don't use the reconnect devices option, it basically freezes saying Braille display on the one that I switched to. Is that like, so did you forget to mention that you have to reconnect devices each time? Or is that a bug that's going to be fixed? I'm so sorry.
I love it. So you should not have to use reconnect all the time. There is a reconnect devices option in there. What I would try doing though, Lorelei, is I would press a cursor router key and see if that forces. So every now and then when I switch over to JAWS, I get Braille display. But when I press a cursor router key, JAWS will come to life. It really is, occasionally that's what's going on. And I would try that. Otherwise, you may have to use reconnect devices. I've noticed and we've seen at times that if your device goes to sleep when it's outside of the terminal, you will have to reconnect devices. So that could be the piece. But if you're running iOS 14.4, 14.4.4, are you running 14.4.4?
Yes.
Okay. So in theory, and if you're running, are you running, what screen reader are you running?
JAWS 2021.
2021. So in theory, I mean, if you can reproduce it and let me know, we can definitely continue to look at it. But in theory, you should be able to use a cursor router key and that should stay awake. You should not have to reconnect devices each time you switch.
I can reproduce it like 9 times out of 10. How should I just email the HumanWare Live?
If you can, right, send an email there. And if you can reproduce the steps as you're making that happen, I can take a look at it and we can see what's going on.
One other option, Lorelei, are you connecting to JAWS via Bluetooth or USB?
Bluetooth.
Okay, so one thing to check is under your Braille settings, your advanced settings under your Braille, make sure that your auto connect is set to off.
I did actually.
Yeah.
That was one of the, when I called customer service, that was one of their first fixes. They had me like reset and delete my Braille profile. It was nuts. We did everything. I Googled it to look for other problems. Every common solution I have tried. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I know you guys don't like tech support questions during the webinars, but I was like, if this is actually a feature, I would like to know.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
shouldn't
certainly
have
shouldn't
to
be.
reconnect each
Certainly
time.
shouldn't be.
No, you shouldn't have to reconnect each time. It's there though in case it doesn't work. So ideally, 9 times out of 10 it would be working, and you would use reconnect that 10th time as opposed to the
9 times out of 10,
times
I do the
using the
reconnect.
reconnect.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it should be the other way, and we can look and try to figure out what's happening here. I'd also be curious, and we'll take it offline, but I'd be curious a couple of other
Yes.
things too. So we'll take it that way.
All right. Thank you.
Rock
Answer
and
your
roll.
question.
Thanks, Lorelai. All
Okay, next
right.
one we have
We
is
got
Kit.
Andy.
Hi, Kit. You want to unmute yourself? There we go.
Hello,
Hello.
Rock and roll.
can you hear me?
We can. Your internet
Okay.
connection's a little weak, but
I
you're good.
I have the same problem as you. I always have to reconnect, but that's not the main question I'm asking. Do you have to set up profile for each device or each thing? That can you have one Braille profile set up for everything? The reason I ask that is my iPhone never really worked with the Braille display. I mean, they work, I can read, but the penning key is not a penning key anymore. And I can only type you a message one time. Next time, if I'm still in the same message, when I type a comma will become something else.
Right.
When I type an A will become something else,
So
and
it
so on and
sounds to
so
me,
forth.
Kit,
And
so
I'm
what
not
happens
setting
is
the
the
right
Braille profiles are for
is not
internal
set.
use. So those are internal. What you're
Oh.
talking about when you use your iPhone or JAWS or NVDA or VoiceOver on a Mac or any screen reader, your screen reader drives Braille support. So it won't be determined by your Braille profile on your device. Your screen reader, so if iOS is not working, when you're typing an A and it becomes, I mean, or let's say you type the letter B and it becomes a BUT, or you type D and it becomes DO or something else, that is really VoiceOver is determining that Braille input and output. Those are screen reader settings. So you may want to look at your Braille key configurations in VoiceOver. You may also want to look at what your input and output is set to in VoiceOver. Is it contracted? Is it 8-dot? Is it, what do you have set as your input and output? Because the Brailliant is just a terminal at that point. So your Braille profile has nothing to do with it, nothing at all. The Braille profiles, when you configure them, those are for internal use. So when you're in the editor, when you're in the Victor reader, when you're reading through various menus, in your options menu, wherever you may be, that is what those profiles are for, and primarily for reading and writing. Internally though, they do not have any bearing. They have no effect on when you're using a screen reader. That's all done. The Braille input and output is managed by the screen reader itself. So we really, if your panning buttons are being funky, it sounds to me what I would do is go into VoiceOver settings and I would reassign your panning keys to see if you can get them fixed.
Yeah, you can actually reset all those settings, because I know in iOS you can actually
Yeah, you
assign
can
certain
customize,
keys. Yeah.
right, what keys you want to do what. And there is a little bit of an issue at this point with assigning the inner thumb keys, I've noticed, but it's certainly something we're trying to work with Apple. We do have some issues with the command keys in iOS, and I think the thumb keys need to be remapped as well. So
I hope that answers your question, Kip. Okay, just a couple of questions that came in the chat. Repeating the dimensions of the BI40X. So the dimensions, the length is 12-inch or 305 millimeters by 90 millimeters. That's 3.5 inches. And then the thickness is just short of 1 inch, 0.9.
that is my favorite English saying, not 0.9.
0.9, should I say.
I love that one.
Okay,
Not 0.9.
just got my X20 and I love it. It's just what I was looking for. Thank you. That's good to hear. Can you check the date and time on the BI40X? Yes, you can.
Yep.
And the command for that is enter with D for your date or enter with T. But of course, you also have a date and time in that main menu as well. If you want to go into that change your time zone settings, etc., you can do so. Okay, so it's going to ask some more raised hands. We have Andrew. Hi, Andrew. If you want to unmute yourself, press Alt+A.
Good morning. It's just after 11 a.m. Wednesday here in Sydney. A quick question. When you introduce audio, I'm assuming that's only for playing audio files, not as a speech synthesizer for the device.
It's a very good question, and I was waiting for someone to tell us that. I mean, audio is quite a wide spectrum, right? It could of course include TTS. It could be just general audio files. What I can tell you is we are looking initially to supporting audio files. Okay, TTS is something, of course, that I'm sure many people would like to see on this device. I'm not committing to that, but what I can tell you live here, and it's recorded, that we are committing to bring out audio capabilities so that you can play back audio files. So perhaps they're MP3 files, maybe they're an audio book that you can listen to. Of course, we have a microphone on board, so once we get that active, you could record your voice notes and then play them back. So that is certainly the initial thing when we look at audio support, Andrew.
The microphone's only on the 40, is that correct? Or is it on the 20 as well?
It's only available on the 40, yes. Yeah.
I would say that I would be very, very keen to have a TTS option. I think it would just really complete it just complete the unit.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's certainly in review stages. But what I can tell you and can commit to is that we are going to be looking at audio playback first. I mean, think about those books, the audio books, Daisy Online books, that kind of thing, which will open up the doors.
I think exactly that would be the next step. Is we're always asked, what about audio support for Daisy, right? For audio libraries and such, and that's something again that's in the cards. We know, we have the capabilities with a lot of our products, so the Victor Reader and lines like that. So we know that the need is there, the want is there, and we're going to assess kind of where that looks as we float down the stream of updates, which we're within 3 months. I mean, we're looking at our first update, so it's a good stream. Streams are flowing, so it's nice.
Okay, next is Kelsey.
Kelsey, rock and roll. Welcome to the program. This is Andrew's program, not mine.
Okay.
How's it going?
Okay. I have 2 quick questions. First off, are there any plans to release an 80-cell version of this device? And secondly, I have the old Brailliant BI 40. What would be the advantages to me upgrading?
Very good questions. Well, I'll certainly answer the 80. So currently, no, there is no plans on having an 80 cell available in the X series at this sort of stage. We currently do have an 80 cell available, and it's the current Brailliant, where there's no intelligence. I think we have to look at, certainly the needs of a user of an 80 cell. Would they really need to have onboard intelligence, a Braille keyboard? Certainly with an 80 cell, that is more than likely going to be fixed to the desk. So it's something that will be reviewed at some point, but in the short term, Kelsey, no, it's something that is not in the shortcoming. Your second question was regarding the just remind me again, the
I have the current Brailliant, not the X,
the current Brailliant, yes. So we are offering trading options. I don't know if you're aware of that. So there are some trading options that are available, whether you have the old display, the BI series, or if you have an Apex or even a Note Taker, you can trade that in and get some discount on the new displays. Some of the advantages, well, I think straight away is the intelligence, more productive tools that will be available to you. You're currently using a display that can only connect to a screen reader just for input and output. And that's great. I mean, it's great that, Braille is very important and you're connecting to mainstream devices. But if you want that little bit more, where you want to create some notes, open up some contents that you've downloaded with ease on the player, removing those barriers of using those third-party apps at times, then those are advantages to you. So it really depends on your own situation. I mean, I always look at technology or a new device of what will that do for me? Like if it's a new iPhone or, what's so special about that iPhone? So Really,
Yeah.
it's down to your own needs here, Kelsey.
It comes down to just and how comfortable are you? I mean, if you're doing great with your Brailliant as it stands and you like what it does for you and you're using it and it's working and you're getting input and output with your screen reader, you know, you may not need these bells and whistles. Whereas at the same time, if you think about kind of if you have that 40 cell and you think about Bluetooth 5 and lots of opportunities moving forward with the intelligence, with the audio possibilities, with a lot of that, it could be something that fits your needs. I really would assess, is all of this, you know, something that's applicable to you? And certainly this will be way easier, everybody, when we can get our hands on some stuff. And I know that's the
Yeah.
biggest challenge right now is nobody can touch things. We can't just jump in and we can't be at a table, at a booth, at a conference, and it'll happen. But it's a bummer that we can't just put this in your hands. So.
Yeah, it is, and remember that actually, we do have the 30-day window. You know, that is something that we do offer. If it's something that you'd want to try, you do have 30 days to try, and if you don't like it, can't get on with it, then you can send it back and get a full refund. Thanks for your question, Kelsey.
We'll do a couple more. We'll go. We got about 8 minutes. We're gonna make Andrew stay up till whenever 30. So we got about 7 minutes, but we'll take a couple more questions. So definitely want to be. Andrew needs to sleep. Believe me, I need him in meetings in the morning, and he's gonna have to be in meetings with everybody tomorrow. So
I'm gonna be living off coffee. Okay, Jane. Jane is next. Hi, Jane.
Jane, how's it going?
There we go.
Hello.
My voiceover's talking.
Oh,
Anyway,
it's all right. Story of my
I'm
life.
very happy with my BI40X. Thank you very much. It's exactly what I wanted. Except, what is HumanWare's position at the moment, or is there any plan to increase the file size in the editor? I do a lot of scanning of books, and some of them are pretty large, and I like to proofread them. And in order to do that with the BI40X as it is, I'll have to break them in half or a third or something, and then put them back together when the pieces are edited. And I'd like to be able to edit, you know, the book all in one glump.
Jane,
Sure.
what do you currently use to scan your books?
Kurzweil and a Book Edge scanner.
Okay. And when they're in there, so you're using a PC to scan them, and I guess what I'm looking for here, because again, is there a benefit to, and I know taking them with you is very important. I mean, I'm not saying you want to anchor yourself to your desk.
Oh, I have 4,463 books on mine. I have my whole library with me, and I love it.
Which is awesome. And I think
greedy.
the piece there would be, you know, when we think about the editing portion, because clearly, or the proofreading, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Proofreading is indicative of editing, right? You're proofreading to edit. The
Yes.
issue that we'll run into, no matter what, you know, is parsing that file size, right? And being able to, even if you can open it, being able to making it navigable at that size. So if you have a 4, 6, 9, 12, 1,400 page book in a text file, it is a very, very tricky thing to navigate, even if you could open it and edit it, unless you're going to keep, you know, just that single bookmark place of where you were.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you, and I'm not speaking for Andrew because I'll let him talk to it. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I think a more practical way would be to edit that level of content. You're going to want to edit with a true word processor, something like Word or Notepad for that matter, because it can handle large books, and you can easily jump around to different navigable elements.
Well, I don't want to be tied to the computer while I'm editing. So I think what I'll probably do is just break it into pieces.
Because I don't see why we couldn't expand it. I just don't know how big it can go. You know, the memory.
Well, the Braille Note had the same feature when it first came out. There was a file limitation, and you know, so it's good to be in on the ground level of a product like this because you get to see all the improvements and whatever. So I'm not complaining. I'm fully comfortable with breaking my files into pieces and putting them back together. But I just wanted to know what the plan was for possibly expanding the editor.
Totally.
It's something that's been raised, Jane. I think, Jane, you're probably on our user group.
I sent you
right?
a file. I
Yes,
sent you my the fiery cross by Diana.
There are various different reasons why certain files will not open. So certainly in the editor, there is that file limit, and that is something that we are looking into. Now, it's never going to replace, as I mentioned, that full Microsoft Word experience. You're not
No.
going to be able to open those larger files, but we are looking to see how far we can stretch it without the device, let's say, from crashing, of course, because there is a buffer limit, and that's crucial. There is a buffer limit in the hardware that when it gets to a certain point, it needs to allow you to have memory for you to edit. Now, that's why you have more memory in the reading side of things, if you in the Victor Reader, because you're not opening up to edit. It would allow you to open up a greater, larger files. But in the editor, because it needs to have editing rights and needs more RAM, that is the limitation. So it may not be possible to increase it to what you'd like, but it is something that we are looking into, Jane, to see how far we can stretch it. Okay.
And I want to also say, just before we end this, and we'll take another couple of questions. Jane is on our BI Brailliant BI X.
I'm the one that fusses all the time. I'm so
we love
sorry.
it. It's a good thing.
That's
It's
good.
a good thing. That's why we
I'm
have a
sorry.
list. We need and we want feedback. So we do have a user list, and I want to give the address to join that list because we'd like anybody and everybody to join, and you can watch the messages go by, or you can certainly participate. Andrew and I look at it. We aren't super active. We have so much going on in our daily work and various things we do. Fortunately, we're not on the road. Otherwise, I don't know how much we would really be looking at it. But we do have a user list, and we certainly like to hear feedback, and we participate when we can. So if you would like to join that list, the address, and I'll give it two times, but it is going to be Brailliant-BI-X-users@groups.io. Now, if you want to subscribe, like any groups.io list, it'd be send a blank message to Brailliant-BI-X-users, the plus sign, and the word subscribe at groups.io, and you can certainly join the list. And we also have Braille display groups on Facebook and various places, but we wanted, when I created this and we put this together, we know the product has been very well received. We know that there are pieces people would like to see, and we certainly want to bring them forward. As I said, we're glad to have be able to bring in an update within 3 months with the PDF support and the global note shortcut. And we know audio is coming. We know this device will grow. There's no doubt about it. We're not moving backward. We're only moving forward. We want users to ask us questions or provide suggestions. We try to be very accessible, and we like doing these types of webinars. We will do more, and we appreciate it. So please join our groups.io list, and we look forward to seeing you there. Let's do one more question, Handy.
Sure. And I've just posted that list email address in the chat as well. Okay, and also part of that list, I'm also looking to expand our beta group, our beta testing. So if you do or are interested in becoming a beta tester, please subscribe to our user list, because at some point we will be looking for beta testers.
That's right. And Andrew has a nice Google form that I've tested that is very accessible, which I need to test on a couple of other pieces, but it's looking good, Andy. So
okay, that's
we'll
good.
be able to provide everyone with a link. If you are an interested beta tester, you can let us know your interest, and we can gauge your level of interest or commitment to doing that. We're streamlining kind of the process to do that. So,
okay, next then we have Dalton Lane.
Dalton, welcome to the Peter and Andrew Club on a very early morning in the UK.
Hello. Hi, Dalton. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I had a question real quick.
Love it.
How high a capacity can the Brailliant BI series or the BIX series hold? Like, can it hold a 32 or?
Oh, for thumb drives. Are you referring to USB drives?
The one that supports the 40, the one that supports the SD cards.
So the 20 will support SD cards. And Andrew, have you tried? I've done it with a 32. I have a 64.
It should be okay to do 64. Sometimes these SD cards, they come in a certain particular format or lot, which you'll then need. If you format them on a computer, then you'll be able to use them in the device. What's great about the SD cards and USB is that the formatting of NTFC and FAT32 are both supported. So the likelihood is strong that if you've got a larger SD card, potentially it could work. But I like to say 64 gig max.
And Dalton, it's hard with SD cards a lot because depending on where they come from, and I'm not throwing any place in the world under the bus, but I will say it can be challenging because you can have a 64 gig SD card. You can have 3 of them and try all 3 won't work, and the next person walks up to the table and has a 128 that works fine. And I've seen that too, even formatted FAT32 or NTFS, or it really can depend on the SD card, unfortunately. So I would say you'll be safe with a 64. That doesn't mean you absolutely will not. There are people out there who use 256 gig cards in their streams, and I would never recommend that and tell you that it probably wouldn't work. But somebody out there will say, yes, it does. I use mine. So, I would say 64 for sure. And certainly at other, it may be doable to do other things. What I will say today, though, the reality is a lot of what we do, so much of what we do is kind of managed in the cloud or is managed in other ways, that internal storage on a device like this that doesn't have video support or taking up that much space is going to be not a challenge, but it's going to be pretty rare in today's sort of workflows, consistent, realistic workflows in a workplace or classroom setting.
Yeah, and the size as well, Dalton, is, in case that was the question, is 32 gigabytes of internal storage on the 40. On the 20, that has the SD card is 16 gigabytes. For
Internal,
USB, you can, I believe on a USB, you could actually connect like those external hard drives. I've never tested one, but if you've got an external drive,
if you have a USB hub, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's very, very hit or miss sometimes with those pieces, depending on where they're manufactured. All right, Andrew, I mean it. One more. That's
we got
it.
a couple.
One more.
2 left, I think. We got
Right, 2
Teresa.
left.
Hi,
We'll sneak 'em
Teresa.
in. Teresa. It's like rapid fire.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. How are you?
We can.
Okay, I am doing well this evening, both of you. I was going to ask 2, but I will keep it to 1. I will limit it to 1. I tend to get a plethora of magazines. I heard you say earlier, talk about Bookshare, NLS, and NFB Newsline.
Yes.
Some magazines I read are also from XSB out of New York, Xavier, and also National Braille Press, our special. Will the Brailliant BI 40 support in either of these?
So I guess does the NBP, are some of those on Bookshare? Do you know? I feel like they were.
Know.
So if they were in if they were on a service like NFB Newsline, and again, there are tons of magazines on NFB Newsline, so it's hard to say off the top of my head if those are supported magazines. But if you want them added, what I would strongly recommend you do is get in touch with your NFB Newsline, with your coordinator in your state. Get in touch with NFB and request those magazines to be added, because it, as far as I know, NBP doesn't have their own magazine server, for instance. So it wouldn't be like, oh, we would support that magazine because we are not a publisher. But if there's a library that contains it, we certainly could add or bring support for that library in the future. But I would recommend getting those magazines integrated with Bookshare or NFB Newsline, and then yes, you could access them from your BI 40X. And for all I know, they could be. It's very tough because I don't know if those specific ones are.
Now, Xavier has it where you can download their audio. They have a way to download, and they might also have a way to download their Braille as well, like onto a USB drive. So I'm wondering, could that USB drive with the magazines be inserted into your...
Absolutely. If they were in BRF, there is no doubt about it. If they're in BRF, for sure. If they are audio magazines, it would be, audio support will be added, but we don't know. It really will be dependent on what format they're in and what they will look like. So that's going to be we're going to give it like a half and half on that answer. But I would say BRF for sure.
Okay. You said something about, Andrew said something about a microphone. The 40 has a microphone place for a mic. Now, what purpose is that for?
That would be for audio notes, like you would on a Victor Reader product. So if you need to record a lecture, a quick phone number, recording something in your environment, that's really going to be the point of the microphone at this point in time. We are using Bluetooth 5. There are all sorts of possibilities under the sun with what you can do with a microphone, but we're gonna leave it at audio notes for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is all, and you all enjoy your evening.
Thanks. Andrew needs to enjoy his morning.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have one more, and then we're
Okay,
really done.
so
Hard
we
stop.
have a question and answer. So this is from good friend Matthew. He's in the UK as well. He's up very late. I have a library of self-transcribed Braille vocal music on my computer in BRF format. As the files have been transcribed from memory, they have errors. I would like to take my BI 40X to choir practice with the Braille music BRF files on it and correct the errors as I encounter them during singing. What is the likelihood of being able to edit BRF files on the BI 40X going forward?
Well,
I
I'm glad I
understand
don't have to
it's
answer
not
that one. That's an Andrew
possible
question.
at present. So basically the short question there is, can you edit BRF files? The answer is, well, you can edit BRF files in a text environment, but you can't edit the BRF files and keep them as a BRF files. That's what Matthew wants in this case. Going forward, it is something, again, that we are looking into. I don't like to commit, you know me, but it is something that we are potentially looking at. Maybe it could be a key BRF app, you know, potentially happening. So that's what it would be, that is what is needed on the device. When is it going to be possible? Is it going to be possible? I can't give you that answer, Matthew, but again, it's something that we are reviewing, looking into.
Definitely on our radar, both for music. So Matthew, your example is perfect, as well as for taking your own sort of shorthand notes, or editing, you know, chemistry or math notation and things like that in Braille. So definitely on the radar. Well, Andrew, thank you for being up late, and thanks for coming back to a good old. You and I haven't done one of these in quite some time, so
it's been a while. So remember, if you haven't asked your question, or you can't remember your questions, please file them away at humanware@humanware.com. Please register your interest in the user list. Hopefully I've already seen about 2 or 3 people just popped up to sign in, so that's great to see.
Nice.
And hopefully we'll do an upcoming webinar on other tasks.
We will. We're going to be seeing some updates, so stay tuned for, and if you're on that list, you will certainly be notified when the new 1.1.1 drops, now that you've heard what it's going to contain. And then also we will do these as we release more updates. I will certainly be creating more snapshot tutorials. We'll keep the content coming. So look for us in the summer. Look for us to be definitely creating some more webinars, and then also to be at a table, a show, a conference, something near you in person. So thanks, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for spending for some of you, Wednesday morning, for some of you very early, midday Wednesday, Tuesday night. Maybe it's happy hour in California. I don't know where you are, but thank you very, very much, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Peter. Take care.
Thanks, Andy. Bye, guys.